This midweek football report was brought to you by Simple Lubes of Greenwood. No time for an oil change? Simple Lubes will come to you. Simply call them at 992-4268.
Whenever there's a video on GreenwoodTodaySports.com, you know we're here. My name is Jonathan Grays, and I'm joined by the football panel once again. Guys, we're winding down. I'm not going to have to look at y'all's ugly faces maybe for another whole year. We're only 2 weeks away from the football season being over. I know y'all probably want to cry right now. But anyway, let's introduce everybody real quick. Stevie G came back with us for another week. He's here. Got the cool shades, the nice fly shirt on. Anyway, moving on, we got Stephen Miller. He's here for another episode of the GTS Mid-Week Report, covering Abbeville. And then to my far left, y'all's right, we got none other than James Spikes. He's been with Emerald all year. All right, guys, I think everybody knows the routine by now. We're going to break down the games from last week first, and then move into the picks. We've had, some success with the picks. The new guy really didn't have any success last week. James didn't have any success trying to pick an upset with Clemson. But me and Stephen Tile, once again, we had somebody else that keeps copying everything that I do. It's all right, though. We'll keep it rolling. Hopefully somebody can pick them all right without having to copy off of me this week. So let's begin. First game we're going to talk about today is going to be Emerald versus Liberty. Emerald went to Liberty and really put a whooping on the Red Devils. It was 34-0. With that victory, Emerald did clinch a playoff spot. So, James, that is crazy. Emerald, they lose, the first 6 games of the year, first 6 or 7 games of the year, and now they're on a 2-game winning streak. So, James, when you're looking at the Vikings, what is it that's going right for the Vikings right now? Why have they been able to beat 2 teams in the region?
First of all, Pouzas has a little more confidence in himself now. He has a lot more confidence, and that dictates the whole flow of the offense right there. And the defense has always been playing good, and they just come together at the right time now. He's finally getting some confidence, the defense playing good, and right now if they get on the same path, they're going to cause a lot of teams a lot of trouble.
Let's move over down there to the far left, down there to Stevie G. Didn't cover anybody last week, but I'm sure he was tuned in to all the games. Let's go right across town, Stevie G, like we always do, to Greenwood High School. They had a big region game against T.L. Hanna this past week. The Eagles came out on top in that game. When we're looking back at the Eagles game against T.L. Hanna, what did you like when you looked at the Eagles?
Well, from what I saw, they had a total of 369 yards total offense, and that's remarkable. I think that Rose, from my understanding, he had a real good night. 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 90-something receiving yards. Of course, they had that trio on the ground running for over 200 yards. The offense was in sync, and the defense was in sync too. Like I said last week, the important thing is that they, maintain that focus, that, there's a bigger goal than region, because that region is so weak. There's nobody there. And, that's the important thing that they have to look towards, and that's the important thing they have to focus on. And that's all about the character of that team. I'm sure Coach Cathcart is preaching that to the boys, and I'm sure they'll be ready come playoff time for whatever adversity comes in their way.
Speaking of having big expectations and having a good offense and having a stellar defense and just whooping teams in the region, let's move right to the Abbeville Panthers. I think there's no question after what they did on Friday night in the GTS game of the week. They are the best team in the Lakelands right now, unless anybody thinks their team is. No, I'm not getting any response. So Abbeville is the best team in the Lakelands. Stephen, honestly, we come on here every week and we talk about the Panthers offense. We talk about Emright, we talk about Elmore, we talk about Head, we talk about Thaxton. Okay, I'm sick of talking about those guys. Let's talk about the Abbeville defense for a week. Tell me a little bit about what the Abbeville defense is doing to keep teams kind of under control.
Well, the defense for Abbeville has come a long ways. I think they came into this season with two returning starters, but you know, everybody's just stepping in and contributing. Don't want to really say any names, but because you know everybody is there, I don't want to leave anybody out. But yeah, I mean, last week, you know, Tiller and Osborne was able to strip the quarterback, and Tiller ran it for 70-something yards for a touchdown. And you know, all those guys are they're stepping up, they're coming together, and we're really playing good, you know. And I mean, the one question I would have about the Panthers defense is they haven't really seen any teams that pass the ball a lot other than Woodruff. And deep into the playoffs, I think that's going to be a question, you know, can they be able to stop the passing attack? Because they're playing teams, even though they may not be as strong, they're still good teams, but they're running the ball. But the only question I have about the defense is, can they stop the passing attack, especially come deep in the playoffs? Because the only team they've really saw that passes the ball really well is Woodruff. So that's my only question about the Panthers defense. But again, they're playing well. Everybody's contributing, stepping up, and getting big tackles and sacks for losses, and just really sparking the offense also.
Let's move over to another team. Chris Maxey, in his absence, he did put Ware Shoals in state championship. He said that Ware Shoals is going to win the state championship this year. I know that drew a lot of laughs from the panel, but in his absence, I'm going to go ahead and say that Ware Shoals did look good against McCormick this past weekend, a 40-28 score. They got into a little bit of shootout with the Chiefs, but were able to prevail. James, whenever Chris Maxey's not here, we go over to you for the Ware Shoals information. You're pretty much plugged in down there. How about when you look at the Ware Shoals Hornets, what are you liking from the team this year?
I'm liking I'm a defensive guy, because Ware Shoals doesn't really wow the offense wow the fans on offense that much unless you got a big break. In defense, they always ready to hit you, no matter who you are, where you from, how big you are. They get ready to hit you. So my favorite part of watching Ware Shoals will always be the defense, and that's all thanks to Coach Walker, because he had them boys ready every week.
Mm-hmm. Moving down to the team they're going to play in that region championship game next week. I go down to Stephen. Stephen, when you're looking at the 96 Wildcats, they defeated Dixie. Same thing happened last year. They defeated Dixie last year. Kind of a tune-up game before the Ware Shoals game. Now they get a couple of weeks off. They get this week off, and they get a whole nother week next week to prepare. But let's look at what the Wildcats need to be working on before they face Ware Shoals next week.
Well, from what I've seen with 96, one thing they can work on is defense. They need to be playing bigger, even though the guys aren't that big or whatever. They lost a lot on defense or whatever to last year's team, but they can work on defense a little bit more. They can work on their special teams a little bit more. I predict this game going down to the wire, just like it did in the Jamboree. It may come down to a field goal, or it's gonna be in the red zone at some point in the game, and like the last 2 minutes or so. So they're gonna have to work on their special teams, and that's what I see out of 96. I think the offense is fine. I think that Trey Smith at QB, he'll lead his offense, and they'll put up points against that Ware Shoals defense. But I think the important thing is that 96 can stay fresh and stay committed to what they've been doing all season. I'm sure they will against their rivals, the Hornets.
In part 2, we're going to go and talk about the GTS Game of the Week. I think everybody has an idea of who's going to be. Two local teams are going to square off against each other this week. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some college games. Is Clemson going to win? Is Carolina going to win? Who knows? Steven's doing a little dance over here. When we come back, the picks.
This midweek football report was brought to you by Simple Lubes of Greenwood. No time for an oil change? Simple Lubes will come to you. Simply call them at 992-4268.